Back and thank you very much for staying with us. So, with the new service chiefs on board, there is a high expectation. I mean, some Nigerians have called this a renewal of hope that things would change for the better. I mean, these are all tested generals, so why not? Joining me tonight for this conversation is Samuel Aruwan, immediate past Commissioner for Internal Security, Kaduna State. Aruwan is a professional journalist and a former special assistant on media and publicity, as well as senior special assistant on media and publicity to former Governor Nasir El-Rufai. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so let's start with the security situation in Kaduna State. You were part of the administration of Governor El-Rufai, which had a running battle with banditry. Tell us about the situation.
Well, I have left the Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs since last month, and I don't think I will want to comment on the security situation, but then you have forced me to say something about it. I am glad to inform you that as of the time that we left to this very moment, areas where we used to have a lot of problems, Kaduna, Abuja in particular, that corridor has been very quiet for a very long time as a result of the concerted efforts that the military, police, the DSS, and other agencies are doing along that corridor. If you also look at the southern Kaduna general area, you can see that that location is also very quiet. It is relatively calm, and you look at Kaduna, Beningwari, or the Beningwari general area, yes, there are challenges here and there, but on the average, the situation is calm, and people are traveling from Kaduna to Abuja on the Kaduna-Abuja road. People are also flying Kaduna, Zaria, Kano road. The same thing is applicable on Kaduna, Kachia, Kafanchan road. So relatively, the situation is okay in comparison with what was obtainable in the past. I think the general areas are calm.
All right, so how easy was it for you to transit from being a journalist to a commissioner in charge of security?
Well, it was by accident, and it turned out to be a very positive accident for me. But my major responsibility as Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs was basically coordination. One, serving as a liaison between government of Kaduna State and federal security agencies that are carrying out internal security operations in the state. Secondly, it is about intelligence gathering. Before now, state government relies heavily on security agencies to provide them with information. But one of the mandates that was given to the ministry was to come up with generative intelligence. And we have a wide spread of human intelligence sources or network across the state where we were also generating intelligence and equally giving out this intelligence to several security agencies that are operating here in the state. The other responsibility has to do with coordination of internal security. Coordination in the sense that once there's a problem in a particular location, we will reach out to the nearest military or police formation that is close to the source of the problem. So this is part of what we were doing. And when I came on board, there were a lot of reservations. How do you bring a practicing journalist, someone who never had any basic security training or background to handle this. But to the glory of Almighty God, and with the support of the governor and other agencies that I work with from 2019 to 2023, we made it. And I was not a debt commissioner. I was in the field. I move around. If there's a problem, I am there. And I also come up with the strategy of setting up an operations room in the ministry, where we have dedicated staff who sit there 24 hours, 247 a day, and they were generating a lot of information that we process, and we are processing this information and passing the information to relevant agencies. Added to that, you will recall that we were also generating data. We are the first subnational in the country to be coming out with data. Quarterly, we were making public security report for the public to see what had happened, number of people that were kidnapped, people killed, incidences. This is what we were doing. And at the end of the day, we are also coming up with annual security reports. So this report helps us to see where we have a problem, where we are lagging behind, what do we do, to cope this problem. So for me, it was a very good opportunity. I learned so much. I learned on the job on how to do security management, despite the fact that I am not a trained security personnel. But then we did the best that we can. In some cases, I joined the troops, in the battle. I remember sometimes in 2019, immediately after I commenced work, we were traveling with the then garrison commander to Dogondawa in Benin. And immediately after one location that is called Sabon Benin Daji in the local government, we came under attack, and the troops repelled and neutralized the bandits that engage our entourage. So I have 1, 2, 3. I have so many things that I can talk about. So for me, it was a great opportunity, and I enjoy a lot of support, and I learned so much. It's a lifetime experience. I am presently writing a book where I will explain a lot of things that happen. In the course of our generating data, we are able to predict that there is possibility of a fusion, or there's possibility of a fusion between the bandit and the Boko Haram that we are relocating to the northwest. We are also able to understand the economy of banditry, trying to look at the sources of their funding. Apart from ransom that was generally known, we are able to also unearth other aspects of economy of banditry, as well as the expenditure, what they do with the money. We are also able to understand the problem in a very holistic manner, trying to understand that banditry is a threat to education, is a threat to healthcare service delivery, is a threat to social cohesion, is a threat to rural economy, is also, a threat to even civil obligations or responsibilities of citizens. So we were able to understand most of these issues, and also come up with what we felt, are the best approaches towards containing this situation. And finally, before I take a break, we were also doing a lot of profiling of the kingpins, those that were really the men behind the marks, And some of them were taken out. For instance, there was this popular bandit that was called Shaibu Kaduna. He was very notorious, But because we are profiling some of these bandits, and we were supplying this information, and it didn't take us long before security agencies take him out in a shootout. There was also a very popular bandit that was terrorizing Igadi local government. He was known as Rufai Mekaji. With the quality of actionable intelligence that the ministry was getting, we were able to alert the Air Force. And luckily for the Air Force, one day, they got Rufai Mekaji somewhere around an area that we call Mekwandaraso. So there are a lot of them. Even recently, before I left office, there was another bandit that was terrorizing Sabon General area. It was known as Isia Damwasa. So when you look at back, when you look at most of our report, you can see that we have done so much. We have done so much. We have recovered a lot of arms and ammunition that were handed over to the zonal office of National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons. And again, banditry is something that is a holistic approach. Banditry is blind to religion, blind to ethnicity, blind to political affiliation. The more people infuse banditry with religion, with ethnicity, and political persuasion, the more they make the fight against banditry a very difficult one. So I am grateful that I have done my bit, and here I am, and we are talking. And I'm writing a book, like I said, though it will take me time, but probably before the year runs out, or in the beginning of 2024, if we are alive, you know, I will get to make public my experience.
All right. Fantastic. I mean, now you can look back and say, glory be to God. But surely, the early days must have been tough for you. Did you at any point, at any time, feel Governor El-Rufai should have given you a different portfolio? And what incidents jolted you the most as a commissioner?
Well, there are many incidences. For instance, there was this kidnapping of 39 students of Federal College of Forestry and Mechanization. I was in the office at around 11 p.m. and we got intelligence that bandits are moving towards a particular private school. And quickly, we were able to secure that corridor. But eventually, while they were retreating, they now moved to the Federal College of Forestry and Mechanization. And they kidnapped 39 students. So it took us a long time to get these students back. There were a lot of issues. But 1 week after all the students were freed, I took a break to Abuja, you know, for an event. While I was in Abuja, I think in the first week of April 2020, then I got a call that bandits are presently attacking Greenfield University. I quickly reached out to the military. Before the military could get to the location, over 24 students and a staff of the university were kidnapped. A staff of the university was also kidnapped. So by 7 a.m., I have already arrived Kaduna Abuja Road. I was in the school premises. I saw a corpse of the staff that was killed by the bandit. So 2 days after, I was attending a function with the former governor of Ekiti State, Dr. John Kaidi Faim. Eventually, I got a call that 3 corpses of the students that were kidnapped were found in one location. That was a low moment for me. I went to the forest. I picked 3 corpses of these students to the mortuary. 48 hours after that event, this heartless bandit killed 2 more students. It was a low moment for me. It is something that I don't want to remember. Another incident was the kidnapping, the attack on the Kaduna-bound train from Abuja on the 28th of March 2021. Before that incident, we have credible intelligence, and we did all that is within our reach, you know, to interact with the Nigeria Railway Corporation. We won. We said that it's very, very important that night operation is stopped because if there's a problem in the night when it is dark, it will be very difficult for us to have a holistic or a robust operation in order to contain the situation. But unfortunately, it happened. The Kaduna-bound train was attacked, and I was getting calls, but we could not really understand the exact location. But at the end of the day, I was able to get in touch with someone who was in the train. He sent to me location, and we were able to establish the exact location, that it happened somewhere around Kasarami and Audu Jongom, somewhere in Chukun local government. So by 10:30, 11 p.m. on that night, the then GOC, Major General K.I. Mukhtar, the garrison commander, Brigadier General U.P. Opune, we all moved to the location, and we recovered 9 corpses. And the terrorists were engaged. If not, they would have taken more than what they have kidnapped at that moment. So it was a very difficult situation. For one, that you have to take corpses. When you look at the way and manner human beings were killed, their bodies mutilated, so on and so forth. So there are many more things to share. But like I said, I am working. I am still generating pieces of information, and hopefully by end of this year or 2024, certainly I will make public my own experience in a book form, so that people can hear my own part of the stories. There are moments that I will go to the office and cry alone and wipe away my tears without anybody knowing, But then it is part of life. All that is gone. We're grateful to God.
Absolutely. All right. So the administration of Governor El-Rufai was credited for infrastructure developments in Kaduna State. In what ways does this help in tackling insecurity in the state?
Well, you see, this is another big issue. If you know Kaduna very well, Kaduna was a colonial town. Kaduna was the capital of the defunct northern region. And in 1970, the colonial government came up with a master plan for Kaduna with a 50 years projection. And that is why in 1967, there was what was called the MacLog Plan. The MacLog Plan was another 50-year-old plan for the town. But unfortunately, population increased, demand increased, there were a lot of things that happened. But when this administration came on board in 2015, the governor made it very clear that he will do all that is within his reach to restore the lost glory of Kaduna town. Because the 18 other states that were created, the 18 of the 19 states of the north were created out of Kaduna. But when you look at the development when you look at development of other capitals and that of Kaduna, you will realize that we are left far behind. And that was why the administration came with what we call Kaduna Urban Renewal Project. It's about giving the town a new face, dualizing a lot of roads. So to match it up with what you are saying, it helped, in reducing commotion, in restoring the original plan of a planned town. It's itself a security, because where you're having a lot of corner shops, where people do a lot of illegal buildings and what have you, without recourse to development control, that itself is an issue. So largely, what the administration did in Kaduna, helped in restoring, the lost glory of the state. And we are happy with the position of the new administration that came on board. They have been saying that they will pay more attention, they will pay more attention to rural development. But the issue of infrastructural deficit is a very big issue that is not only applicable to Kaduna State. So we did the best that we can, and we hope those that have who came after us will continue with what is left undone.
I mean, so much has been achieved, but despite a new administration at state and national levels, insecurity is still ravaging Kaduna. Why has it become so persistent?
Well, I don't think it is not correct to say that insecurity is ravaging Kaduna. It is not correct. And you should know that security situation, is not only applicable to Kaduna, is not only applicable to northern Nigeria. It's a global issue. Wherever you go, there are one or two challenges related to security. Even in the heart of London, even in the heart of Washington, you have one security breach or the other. But then, to answer your question, when you look at banditry, you can't just look at banditry from the surface and just assume that it is a recent creation. There are a bunch of problems that were left unattended over time that are metamorphosed into what we later experience. For instance, if you look at the beginning of banditry, we have a group of pastoralists who lost livestock or who ran out of livestock, and they were raiding other pastoralist settlements, and committing cattle rustling. And very little attention was not paid to that issue. The justice system is another problem. Policing was another factor. Communities just look at this problem as a purely pastoralist problem. So most of these problems that were left unattended, later became what we are battling with. But what is important is this. Within the last 4 years, we have seen committed leadership, that showed seriousness in addressing this issue. Even though when you look at the problems, like I said, it is not something that will develop over time. But then there are a lot of strategies that we applied, in tackling these problems. We hope those that have presently assumed leadership of the security architecture of the country and down to state level will build on that. And luckily for us, the Chief of Defense Staff, who was just appointed, and also the Chief of Army Staff and other service chiefs that were appointed, have been part and parcel of the campaign against terrorism and banditry and other security issues across the country. So they are not newcomers to the problem. They have been part and parcel of the campaign against this asymmetric warfare that I talk about. And we hope that we will see more action in them. For instance, the Chief of Army Staff was GOC, 1 Division Nigerian Army here in Kaduna. He demonstrated leadership, and we did a lot, taking the battle to their hideout, and we were able to neutralize so many of them. We were able to weaken the strength of this non-state.
Mr. Aruwan.
So we believe that with this new security, with the new leadership that emerged on the national security architecture, definitely we will see a lot of progress. We will see continuation from where the previous service chiefs
all right.
stopped.
All right, I get your point, but you would agree with me that the successes recorded in the Northeast is not at par with what we have in the Northwest. Why has it been difficult to achieve such against the bandits in the Northwest?
Well, if you look at the problem, the terrorism started in Northeast in 2009, to be precise, July, when we have the uprising there. And you also have to look at deployment. You also have to look at the presence of boots on the ground in that axis. And it is relocation. You know, what we are witnessing, yes, the military has been able, to weaken the strength of the terrorists in the Northeast. So, and the Northwest became a safe haven. And in the Northwest, we are not only battling with banditry. It's about 2 or 3 problems. Number one, we have the terrorists who we are relocating from the Northeast to the Northwest, added with the banditry that we were battling with. But if you look at what is happening, let's look at the Sokoto. In Sokoto, there is Operation Hadarin Daji. And the Operation Hadarin Daji is supervised by the General Officer commanding 8th Division in Sokoto. There is air component apart from the ground troops that are working there. And if you be sincere, if you follow what they have been doing in Sabon Birni, in Goronyo area in Sokoto, coming to Shenkahi, coming to Tsahe in Zamfara, and also coming to somewhere around Safana, Batari, Faskari in Katsina State, coming down to Birni, Gwari, Igabi, Jiwa, where we have Operation Wild Punch that is also being supervised by the GOC 1 Division. You will agree with us that there is indeed, a progress. The major attack that we had from the Boko Haram was the train attack.
All right.
It was in 2021, but generally the area has been calm. So to be fair, we have to acknowledge the fact that the military has been doing a lot in the Northwest, but I quite agree that more have been achieved in the Northeast. But you will agree with me, like I said, that we are indeed making progress here in the Northwest. We've talked about Kaduna Abuja, which I said it has been very quiet for a very long time. And if you are following events, what is happening in Zamfara up to Katsina, Kaduna, there is indeed a lot of progress. There are ongoing operations from the states, from the frontline states in the Northwest.
All right, then. I mean, we've spent so much time talking about the security situation in Kaduna State. Let's take a break and we'll be